Okay, we're still gonna wait. Okay, no, Loeiz has joined. That's nice. I'm going to maybe start by giving some quick updates that have come up during the past week. So we have 3 new grantees, possible grantees, that we are in the process of finalizing. And once we finalize them, we will introduce them in next week's developer call. There's some very exciting stuff in there. There's some things about MEV and how data works on Starknet. So we're very excited about that. Then let me quickly check my agenda. So for today we have Loeiz, who's going to present us Redline. It's a racing game on Starknet built with Unreal Engine, if I'm correct. Then we have NoProcess today, who's going to introduce himself. He's not a dev, but he's into content writing, marketing, and so on, and he's also taking notes for us for this call. So thank you, NoProcess, for that. And at the end, I might give some updates on Solvement, or maybe Dirk wants to give some updates because we're like quite close to launch, and it's very exciting. Loeiz, if you're ready, then you're welcome to share your screen and give us an introduction to Redline. I'm very excited to see it.
Hello everyone. Yes, let me get the share screen going on. Is it working? Hello, can someone confirm if it?
Yeah,
Very good.
we can see it.
Yeah.
Can I do a? Does anyone know how I can do a like in-window slideshow?
I think you could just use your keyboard.
Yeah, but I want to get rid of the UI, but it's not a big deal.
Oh, okay.
Or how is that? Does that work?
This is great. Yeah, this is good.
Okay, all right. So sorry for the technical lag. So I'm going to present Redline, a racing game on Starknet. A little bit about me. I am Corentin, and I have a background in video game development. I've worked on Monte Crypto, a previous game in 2017 where there was a Bitcoin to win when for the first player to solve 24 cryptographic enigmas. And I've also worked with Deep Silver, which is which has been bought by Microsoft Games and other startups and my own indie games. And I've been doing like crypto stuff on the side for as a hobby, and the occasional NFT stuff. But yeah, so now I wanted to merge these two worlds of crypto and games, and the result is Redline. So what like this slide is going to be a quick overview of what Redline is. So it's an on-chain spectacular racing game powered by a DAO. Spectacular is important here. We'll explain a little bit later what I mean by that. How is it built? It's using Starknet and Unreal Engine 5, and all interactions will be in a browser. More interactions outside of a browser are also possible, but we want the user experience to be as fluid as possible. So downloading stuff is not necessarily in our roadmap. So the game is currently working, not on Starknet yet. It's working locally, and we have the 1.0 release planned for the middle of next year. Why Redline? So the Redline is mostly here to tell a story owned by its player. It's an exercise in on-chain, fully on-chain games, and how it evolves from there, what happens after you're on chain, and how you can tell a story about what happens. And the team, there's me, Monte Crypto, as I said, quickly, Deep Silver as well. Alex, he's a cinema guy. He's worked on Star Wars, Marvel, movies, and many other things like Ready Player One, and some other friends who are helping for game design and more stuff. So the first thing to understand is that the game runs on Unreal Engine, and it will be streamed using Twitch or any other streaming service. And this allows us to have a live race announcer to comment whatever happens on the race, and allows us to have very high quality visuals on any device. So that's our first step, but we plan to have more clients later where you have avatars and stuff like that. Redline is a story. I keep repeating that, but it's very important. It's like events, it's like story, it's drama. Let me take a point of comparison. So Formula One. What is Formula One? Formula One is cars racing, right? But it's more than that. It's teams, it's team drama, and you have the occasional crash. And well, it's terrible for the lives that may be lost, but it has a great entertainment value. And to go one step beyond that, something that really inspires us is the Netflix formula Drive to Survive, which is like a concentrate of whatever happens in the Formula One races, and also insight on what happens between the team and the players. So we want to get this level of entertainment and drama centered around a game that has strategy, and for example, for Formula One, it requires deep engineering. All right, so how the game works. So Redline is an on-chain race, not unlike Zrun, for example. Some of you might know Zrun, which is, it's just a NFT. The horses are NFTs, and they race, and you can breed them and stuff like that. So we don't have breeding, but we're similar to that. Where we differ is that we have a building system in the game. So you have like an inventory of robot parts, which are also NFTs, and you have to assemble them in a robot that will make sense to beat your opponents and to match the track that you're going to race on. So it requires strategy. And there's also a deck building aspect inspired by Magic the Gathering. So you have to choose wisely your sort of your parts. And also there's another thing that we're borrowing from Magic, is that we have every season we'll have a list of allowed parts in the races to keep the game fresh and fair, and also to annoy people who make bots because they have to update their bots. We're not against bots, but I'll explain a little bit later our view on bots. In our game, strategy is key, and randomness is an added flavor. And also, chaos increases with time, because the conditions of the race are set at the start of the race, and after that, the race runs on its own. And so we want to aim for the strategy level of StarCraft 2, for example. And our randomness will be flavored through weather data whenever possible. We don't have that working yet, but it will be an oracle feeding weather and like the temperature and if it's raining or not, most likely. And that will affect all the robot parts, the track, and everything else in the race. So it's an interesting element for randomness. And we also have spells. So it's not like cartoon spells or like magical effects. It's slight advantages that you can accumulate over time, or disadvantages that you can impose on your opponents over time. But you have to precast them, so that's where the chaos increases as well. And we aim to get the balance of rock, paper, scissors so that there's never a winning strategy. Or Magic the Gathering is also a good example of that. You never have one winning strategy. You have multiple ones that can counteract other strategies. The racing tracks in Redline are based on real-world locations. I mean, the tracks do not exist in reality, but it will be in a real city. So this allows us to get the weather data, and it also helps the story, because a real-world location is full of story and has a culture and a lot of stuff. And the different tracks have require different strategies, because the material of the track, or the length of the track, or the angles, or the slope of the track, all of these are fed into our race equation. For example, in the trailer that some of you might have seen, we can share it in the chat later. This is the first frame of the trailer, and here you have Mount Fuji. It's not super obvious because that's not the point of the trailer, but our first track is in Tokyo. All right, a little more about randomness. So here there's a spectrum of randomness where you have very random stuff like the roulette at one end, and you have predictable stuff like chess at the other end. So Redline, as I said, aims to be in line with StarCraft, and we have a lot of balancing to do that. And we're using like simple Monte Carlo simulations every time we make a change, to make sure that we're not, you know, I mean, Redline is a complex system, so we have to use these kind of tools to keep in check the balance whenever we make changes. So I'm going to explain a little bit the blockchain part of Redline. So we have the Redline DAO, probably just a multi-sig, and we have players which are wallets in a way. So we have the race equation, as I mentioned, which is a smart contract where the race is computed. And the Redline DAO has voting power over some race parameters, or could even replace the contract in the case of a big update. There are also NFT collections that are frequently replaced and reinvented, and so that's just updating the content. Then to run the game, we use a ticker, most likely Yagi. And yeah, we will automate these parts. We are also in need of VRF stuff and an oracle to feed the randomness to the race equation. And so the players, to play the game, they need to buy parts or get free parts for the first comers. And then they assemble these parts and they play robots that they submit to the race equation. But we want to introduce something called a house, and a house DAO. So it's like a team in Formula One. The Ferrari is not just the Ferrari driver, or actually the two drivers. It's a team behind that. So it allows for having a DAO there allows for organization of the team. They can decide whichever governance they like. This DAO is entirely independent from Redline. So it's just a smart contract template or an interface that we require. And as long as you have that interface, you can organize it any way you like. And it allows to delegate governance inside the team, to have people taking care of the building, taking care of the funding, taking care of the playing. And the house might also be able to sell its own cosmetics, because the goal of Redline, again, is to have teams and drama building around the game. So the teams will be famous, and so people tend to want to have special cosmetics or collectibles. It's the same thing from the people they follow. So that's a possible way of funding for house DAOs. And when they play and some will win, they get rewards into the house. So the house is also responsible for bringing that value back to players if it's something they want to do. The race equation is our big math formula, or even a small program as it stands now, where we compute, given a lot of parameters from the robots, from the track, from the weather, and from the VRF, the randomness. We compute the distance for each robot since last block or update. A race will roughly be 100 blocks or something like that, but it really depends on the block time of StarkNet and the precision we want to have. The race equation also returns risk factors like was there a collision between two robots? Was there overheating in some parts of the robots? Or environmental dangers, like did the robot slid or go into like out of the track? And these are super important because they help to tell the story. That's where I think Redline shines, is that we have a lot of these rare events, and some of them might never happen. They're extremely rare. Like you can compare the chance of some events we have to being struck by lightning. But the interesting part is that it's in the code and it can happen. And so that drives the story. And also it makes it not boring to watch because you have unexpected stuff happening. And so our race equation is working, as I said in the first slide. But right now we are working on Excel. All right, so some of you might think that is funny, but it's actually the only common tool we have with the game designers and the programmers. So we decided that it's our go-to tool for now. So we can play in Excel. We have our little interface, and the screen that you see here is not even a full race for one horse. So we have multiple pages feeding stuff, but it works, and it's very interesting. We have also level editor in Excel. We have everything there. But as if it works in Excel, it works on the blockchain. And a few more points of interest. So we want to open source all the chain things, and the renderer, it's going to be more complex because of assets, so texture and 3D models that we don't necessarily we own the rights to use but not to redistribute. So it's more complex there, and going full CC0 asset way is going to be extremely complex. But we might do something in between where we release the renderer without the licensed assets. Many games have done that, so we can follow that, and it's something we are looking into. We over time want to have community grants to build on top of our rather simple architecture with the race equation and the Redline DAO and the house DAOs. There's also a live announcer on the races to help enhance the story and drive energy. We also are planning WebGL and AR clients where you can have your avatars and then expand on the universe of Redline. The game also is a no crypto, has a no crypto point of entry. By that I mean that you do not require a wallet to watch the game on Twitch or on the website. And we build the story around the racing world. So that's in link with the AR clients and WebGL clients. And the game is designed to be bot friendly. So I personally design bots for games, not necessarily crypto games, but I like that. So I always keep that in mind. And I think Redline will be played by sort of semi-professional people or very involved hobbyists at high level. And I don't see how they will not be using bots or whatever tools to help their choices. So it's best to design with that in mind instead of ignoring it or trying to fight it down the road. And our game is also free to play, so anyone who connects gets a free robot. Granted, it's not going to be the best robot, but at least you can start to play and start to tinker and have fun. And we will have league seasons and non-ranked play to organize all of that into something that makes sense. So the lower level leagues will not be commented, or the non-ranked play will not be commented by a live announcer, and will be put forward less. Like you have Formula 1, but you have Formula 2, Formula 3, and we will follow that. And that's it. So right now we are looking for developers interested to work on Redline. So either Cairo or Unreal or Front-End, or actually we're pretty open to anyone who's talented and interested. And we're also about to start a fundraising process. So we're looking for advice or people who you know who might be interested in helping Redline in any way. And here are my contact information here, or you can check the website if you want to know more. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Loeiz, so much. Sorry, I think I interrupted someone.
No, go ahead, Swag. I was just gonna ask a couple questions, like just out of
Yeah,
curiosity, but
yeah, please ask them.
so I love this is really cool. I think it looks awesome. I had a question surrounding like sort of like skill-based matchmaking or casual play in like kind of like point of entry, because I had played Zedrun in the past myself, and I found like it a little bit hard to approach in the sense that like you'd have to like buy a floor horse kind of to play the game, and then your horse is probably not that good, and the skill based matchmaking, like a lot of times you'd be racing against experienced racers or horses that maybe shouldn't have been in that like skill bracket. So I was just curious if like it's designed to be like played by mostly hardcore enthusiasts, or if there's like a casual bracket design with like heavy skill based matchmaking, or just kind of like your philosophy around that.
Yeah, so the game is, I mean, the core of the game, which is the League One commented and put forward, is aimed at very high level players. But yeah, we have non-ranked stuff where you can just play with any friend, and you have leagues also. So if you want to play ranked, but you don't want to, be overly stressed about high performance, you can also participate in leagues, and these will not necessarily be commented, but yes. And if you end up like with a robot or strategy, that's great. Your skill will naturally push you to the upper leagues.
Got it. And then as far as like entry goes, like is there a financial barrier to enter the game? I thought I read something that it's like your first robot's free. Is that right?
Yeah, so for pricing, we really like we don't want to have parts that are limited in quantity. Their availability is limited in time, but there's no cap on how many can be minted. And so yeah, for new players, you get a free robot or maybe more than a few robots, so you can start playing with different parts. These will not be you will not be able to compete at high level with these, but you can get into the game. And we also want the games to be fairly priced. So for example, Magic the Gathering, if you want to compete, like assuming you're a great player, of course, but if you want to compete, you can have for $300 a competitive deck of cards. So we're aiming at that range of price. We're not aiming for 100K level horses. We want to focus. I mean, we'll see as the game evolves, because that's not under our direct influence. But we'll see. Yeah, we want lower parts to be very cheap, ideally, so you can still have fun.
Awesome. And then, from a like is the prize pool similar to Zed, where like I like as a player put up the money, or do you view it more as like how in like F1 and like real life racing, like it's from like sponsorships and other sources, sort of thing.
Yeah, so I haven't touched about how the treasury earns money in Redline, but yeah, we have. So since the game is supposed to be entertaining for even non-crypto people, we have a very high value for like ads make a lot of sense there, or
Hmm.
sponsors. Um, so the prize pool will come from that, and the for higher leagues, I don't. So Formula One is actually a very interesting system because they arbitrarily change the rules at every season just to keep the game sort of moving, and the track owners are also supposed to pay extremely high fees, and the teams are also supposed to pay extremely high fees. So we're gonna follow something similar, except we're not gonna do extremely high stuff. But for ranked leagues, you might have to um, put something down. We'll see the player response to that. And one more thing about that is that at the beginning, we are going to give rewards regardless in a play to earn fashion to attract people.
Hmm.
So it's a bit of a crude technique, economically speaking, but yeah, so it works. So, that's the tools that people are currently using. So we're gonna
Yeah.
hop along and do the same.
No, it makes sense. Thanks so much. Really great presentation again. Thank you.
Any other questions for Loeiz?
Hey, Lowe's, that was a great presentation. Um, this whole system sounds like there's going to be a lot of economic theory behind it, which is kind of the case for a lot of these like NFT craft and play kind of games. So I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit more about like, are you going to have a token?
Does
How does
anyone have
crafting?
any other question? Or if you have more questions later, you can always ask it
Um,
on Discord.
Loeiz, I think Cyrix Hank is speaking and he asked you a question. I think you can't
Ah,
hear him for whatever reason.
yeah.
Um, I'm not sure why that is.
Hank, if you want to repeat it, I can forward it. Lois, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hank. I
Yeah,
cannot.
no, no worries.
I can hear you now. For
Oh,
So
cool.
you can, so, okay. So I'll just ask my question again, and if Swag can't
yeah.
hear, then maybe someone can help him out. Um, so yeah, just like I'm just curious to hear how you're gonna handle some of these like crafting, burning, and like tokenomics issues that sound like they're gonna be things to overcome for your game.
Sure. So crafting. So crafting. We have so crafting. We don't intend to put a limit on the parts on the number of parts that can be crafted. Um, we we will at every season release new parts and release a new official lineup of allowed parts in the season. So that takes care of itself, and of you might have like legacy seasons and stuff like that to for the older parts to still make sense. Um, which is a very common tactic in trading card games. So you said crafting, burning. So burning, I can you explain what you mean by burning?
Yeah, so I guess that this kind of goes back to your thing about
I
official
think
part.
I'm not hearing again.
God, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead, Hank. Or near Swag can repeat it.
Yeah.
Swag, you just
Okay,
repeat it.
this
Thanks.
is really weird.
Yeah, now
Um,
I hear you again.
okay.
That's strange.
Typically in these in-game world where you're crafting like items of value, if you don't have any way to remove them from the world, then you get inflation where like these parts are essentially worthless because anybody can access them and use them. And so a lot of times you have to build in burning mechanisms. For example, like if you choose to use a part, then that part gets removed from the world, so that you can't access it anymore. and it's just a way to keep like these digital assets retaining some value. So I was just curious if you're planning to only handle this using your like official set of
Yeah.
like whatever.
Yeah, I understand.
what
So
parts-
it's something we're completely aware that if we print with no bounds anything, it will create a value problem down the road. So that's why we might have no upper bound, but as like whenever people buy something, the price goes up. I don't know, like we don't want to drive too much arbitrage or opportunistic behaviors, but there is a way that the game destroys parts in the event of crash or overheating or bad carrying of like overusing of the parts in a race, but it's a rather rare event that should like good players will avoid losing parts. So it's not, I don't think it's something that like having the official lineup is going to be our main strategy. There's a great article on machinations that I can share later about exactly this problem, and then they list a few ways that different games solve that, and yeah, if that interests you.
Cool. Yeah, that definitely interests me. Thanks for answering those questions.
So, Lois, can you give us like a very brief overview of like the next steps to bring Redline to Starknet, like from a like development perspective? Can you outline just like in general terms the next few steps in like 1 or 2 minutes that you are facing and you will take next?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I've started learning. So I know Solidity I've been doing Solidity stuff for a few years for fun. So I'm learning Starknet for a few months ish, like since the beginning of the year, and we're intending to get a very simple race equation up very soon, and with a poor man's randomness, but that provides decent enough randomness for testing purposes. So this is the matter of weeks. The parts that are still unknowns are NFTs on Starknet. But again, not extremely worried about that because we can do objects with properties, tokens with properties, or we can handle that. And the reason that we want to go to have a very light Starknet prototype is not necessarily to test the game, because the testing requires more powerful tools that scale. So Starknet will be mostly to connect the stuff to our renderer in Unreal. So that's like right now Unreal is connected to Excel, so it's not extremely sexy, and it's like Excel is good to make our game with the game designer, but we need the real network conditions to have the Unreal renderer sync to the blockchain. So that's an important step. And another part that we haven't explored is the interaction with house DAOs. For now, we are considering that players are just a wallet.
Okay, awesome. And I believe you have like another update today for us in relating to the procedural on-chain world generation that you do with Bull. I think you have like a 3D renderer, is that correct?
Yeah. So this is a completely different project that I'm doing. I mean, it's mostly a Bull's project. He's done all the hard work of creating a procedural world generator. It's already on Starknet, or one of the versions is already on Starknet. Bull, feel free to interrupt me if I say incorrect things.
Yeah, sure.
But we've we have he's published something on StarkNet, so I could quickly create. Oh, so it's extremely crude. Let me reload the page. It should be. Yeah, you should see that on my shared screen. So I'm using Play Canvas just because it's extremely fast to work with. All right, so we have this very simple first-person game. I mean, there's nothing to do yet, but you can see here the blocks appearing. So this is reading Bool's contract on StarkNet and rendering the cubes. So it's like a Minecraft world. Right now there's a pickaxe, but it's completely useless. But it will be soon where we can remove blocks or place blocks. And so we have. Sorry, the first blocks here are a bit broken, but we have stone, we have dirt. The green up there is grass, and the glass-looking things is supposed to be air, like no block. But for today's purposes, I wanted to see them, to visualize them, so I put this weird texture.
And just to clarify, the only reason we're calling the StarkNet contract to fetch all the blocks is because we haven't yet implemented the terrain generation algorithm in JavaScript. And so once we have that, then the blocks will load like at least 1,000 times faster, if not more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that's also part of the reason, or it's actually the main reason we're working on the transpiler from Cairo to JS. And yeah, I talked about it a bit last week, and there aren't, there isn't like any big update yet, but like progress is being made on that end. So yeah, I added like the ability to parse like some really basic functions, like some really basic Cairo functions, and I'm hoping to, increase the scope of what it's capable of parsing, and then get something like really basic working that can actually like convert code. So yeah.
Yeah, and one thing on top of my mind as I see this, we are fetching one block after the other. So I don't know. We could probably try to either request many blocks from StarkNet at once, or even Bool requiring a change in your implementation, but require many blocks, and that would return an array or something combined into a felt.
I think that'd still be way too slow.
Yeah, of course, but just on top of my mind. Yeah, the way to go is to have the code.
Yeah, just you mean in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, could do
but
that.
Yeah, so the next step here is to so your code Bool has your contract has the ability to remove blocks and place blocks. So that's the sort of next step for this renderer. Right now, this renderer is really done like in a whatever works way currently. We'll clean it up down the road. Like you can see, the frame rate is not even great here. But yeah, that's where we're at, and
and I should also add that just Fred, who's in this call, has been a huge help in cleaning up the contracts, because before they were like I was just kind of rushing to like finish them, and I wasn't really thinking about like the best way to implement everything. And yeah, he's been really helpful in cleaning, making them like basically just cleaner and like more extensible, I guess. So yeah, just wanted to give that shout out.
Okay, awesome. I love to see this progress. It's really cool to see this like visualized. That's really awesome. Anyone have any questions for these guys? All right. Before we move on to NoProcess and his introduction, I would like to ask our fellow grantees if they have anything to present or to update us or to discuss. Now that we have all these devs on this call, it would be a great opportunity. But if you don't have anything, that's fine as well. I'm aware that progress doesn't happen instantly. So if anyone wants to say anything, then please feel free to do so. Okay, then we will move on to NoProcess. NoProcess isn't a dev, but he is basically offering to contribute in terms of marketing, in terms of content writing for VDAO, or also for any projects that VDAO is incubating. And NoProcess, maybe you can give us a quick introduction of yourself, a bit of background, talk about what you're passionate about and what you're doing.
Hello, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my background is normally in content creation for more like social media marketing companies. I've worked for one second. Sorry. Yeah, so I started off at university studying econ, and I worked for the tech transfer department there, so was basically like researching new patents and that sort of thing, and figuring out how to commercialize them and like writing like general reports to the management on how we could commercialize the patents, you know? So I guess that's sort of where I started diving really, really deep into crypto around 17. Just reading like every white paper and thinking I was like really buying the future. So I lost all my money, but I learned a lot about blockchain tech and like some of the applications that were viable and stuff that just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Like VE chain and like supply chain management on chain and stuff like that. But I went back to crypto in 2020 and ended up going full time in 21. Also worked in business development for a semiconductor OEM for a little bit. So I've got experience in learning about new technologies and just basically writing reports for people without the technical experience. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself and offer my services to make content. I just want to basically present the ideas that all of the developers have and like kind of the concepts you want to illustrate with your work. And I would just like to present that to the public in a way that laymen can understand and with sort of more like marketing spin on it to drive more eyes to Matchbox. Yeah, so for now, I'll probably be focused on writing generally for Matchbox style, like general marketing stuff, like a mission statement, or right now, I believe Yoni sent me, I think it's Yoni sent me an idea for creating an outline for contributors, essentially like what we're looking for from each different type of contributor, whether it's a developer, a content writer, etc. So I'm working on that now, but in the future, once the developments like really start to come to fruition, I'm perfectly open to help you guys with like marketing copy, any like non-technical documentation or instructional content, that sort of thing. Just wanted to make myself available to the devs so that if you need help writing while there's more pressing technical details to attend to, I'm always here for that. But yeah, I understand that, like while everything is in the ideation phase, there probably won't be much of a need for writing on that front. But yeah, I just wanted to make myself available and yeah, thank you all for giving me the time to share.
Awesome, thank you, NoProcess. I think we can definitely make use of your talents once all these projects are further along, for sure. But in the meantime, we're also happy to have you in Matchbox, just contributing to Matchbox-specific things that we need help with, because we are especially trying to basically better involve the community of players. So we can have like a player base, a test user base for all the things that we're building, and like that's kind of the future focus of Matchbox over the coming months, that we also get like normies into VDAO and not just developers, so that developers can draw from a user base for their games and projects and experimental stuff that we're doing. So that's great. Thank you. And that's it for today. I don't have anything else on the agenda. If anybody wants to say anything, feel free to. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. And I want to thank Loeiz and Bull and Just Fred and NoProcess and everybody else that spoke today for attending and for their attention. Alright, then I'll wrap this call up. Thank you all for attending and see you soon. Bye bye.